You know, over the last few weeks, we've heard from wrestler after wrestler, one by one, talk about rising devastation that Amplified Wrestling and Enterprise Pro Wrestling has to offer for us next Saturday night in prime time on the brightest light. That's not good. That's does prime time. Scratch all that, but week after week. In fact, it's been so much rising devastation that, well, my intro you almost heard there loud and clear. But forget about all of that. You've heard from this wrestler and that wrestler. Johnny Walker interrupted Eric X Black. He'll be a topic, I'm sure, in a few minutes. Kid Mike and Van Hansen. I have to ask our guest about that, especially after their history. And then maybe even, well, what Eric X Black had to say about our champion. Boy, there is a lot to get to. We are just days away from the rising devastation, the biggest show yet, maybe, in Amplified and Enterprise Pro Wrestling's history. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that with the champion who's back on Sportswire Radio for the first time in over 9 months. We'll talk about some other things. We'll talk about goals. We'll talk about maybe even a name you might have heard of, Raina Black. Yeah, I'll mention that name. I'm sure that's going to certainly get, let's say, quite a few things to say from the champ, and maybe even we'll reveal a few guests coming back next week here on Sportswire Radio. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to get this show on the road here in prime time on the brightest lights, the biggest stage, the platform where all wrestling matters, and the platform that Amplified and Enterprise Pro Wrestling, along with our guest, most certainly helped build here to the tune of 1,400 plus subscribers, and to have not one, but two magical moments with this guy, some man beast war machine named Rhino, and Savio Vega, who apparently was responsible for the career of Stone Cold Steve Austin. But we've got the first female wrestler Hall of Famer inducted into the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, back and better than ever. So let's get this show on the road here in style on Sportswire Radio, the number one global radio station. So with without further ado, here on the Sports Report, number one Sports Show, the Queen of Zababa, the reigning, defending, Amplified Wrestling Women's Champion. Her name is, simply put, Lydia Myerz. The champ is here, my friend. How are we doing?
We're doing good. We're doing good.
That's good. Good to hear. It's been a hot skip in a minute. The last time I saw you was in the summer. I saw you did a podcast with some person we're never going to name again, who certainly has quite a history and a long story, but you're back here in prime time on the brightest lights, the biggest stage, and it is great to be with you, and I hope you're doing well, because we have a lot to talk about tonight. You're going to be kind of in a weird spot, as you're always in, because you're going to have to figure out, I guess, which side you're on, if any, here going into next Saturday.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's kind of a weird spot you're in, a really weird spot.
It is. It is. I have beef with both.
But, well, we're going to get to that in a minute here. We're going to certainly get to that. We're gonna get to that
That's
here.
what the kids call it. Kids still
Well,
call it with people. Is that what they
well,
call it?
you know what? You've always been in a, I guess, interesting situation, and we'll talk about that here. So I guess let's go and talk about the show itself. So let's do that here for those that are listening and watching here in prime time on the brightest lights, the biggest stage, the platform. You, Lydia Myerz, is the reigning, defending, amplified wrestling women's champion, alongside Amplified Pro Wrestling most certainly helped build here Sportswire Radio. What do you expect to do here coming up next Saturday? Rising Devastation.
I expect to walk in with my title and walk out with my title. I am forever the amplified women's champion.
Yes, you know what's funny? I think you've actually shown the title more than in the previous appearances on Sportswire. In case if you didn't know you were the women's champion, tonight you're going to know it. And I'm sure that Van Hansen and Kid Mike, who are going to be out there, that's going to be ingrained in their memories that you are the Amplified Wrestling Women's Champion. They can't do anything about it tonight.
Yeah, if it's not by now, then it's going to be.
Well, they're going to figure it out sooner rather than later. And I see some people in the chat. We'll get to them. So, big show here coming up. You're going in, and there's so much on the line here, and we've been kind of dancing around it. I mean, are you nervous going into next Saturday just because of what's at stake in terms of, well, now your career at Amplified and Enterprise? What's your thoughts on some of that?
My thoughts is that just, people want to throw threats out there. Eric Black is out here throwing threats about firing this person and that person, and that's all it is right now. It's just an empty threat.
I thought we were in America where, we weren't in dictatorships and, we were going to just overthrow people. And, I didn't know I thought we were in America, not like the Soviet Union or, Venezuela, China, Colombia. I didn't realize we were in America, considering Mr. Black. And the champion, I think, is frozen. Has Eric Black and his cohorts, have they played with Miss Myerz Internet? Because, boy, you know what? 2 days ago, James Taylor was on Sportswire Radio. And James Taylor's internet, we saw, was certainly, let's just say, naturally selected to go out. And now Lydia Myerz here is dealing with the same problems. Has Eric X Black shown Philadelphia like managerial skills when it comes to his internet? Because he certainly knows a thing or two about Philadelphiaing Wi-Fi, and Lydia Myerz might be in the crosshairs of it because, boy, and the champ is gone! The champ is gone! The champ is gone! Has Eric X Black already started on day one? He doesn't even have the job. He doesn't even have the job of control yet of Enterprise and Amplified Wrestling. And Lydia Myerz, thank God, Lydia, I had thought for a second that Eric X Black, for whatever reason, decided in his mind he won next Saturday. And his first executive order was to fire you and take you off the stream and take off your internet. Thank God you've come back on Sportswire.
Honestly, I think that's what happened too. Oh my God. Okay.
Boy, you better be careful. You know what? Over the next hour or so, I certainly hope that we don't get Philadelphia like managerial preemptive strikes and warnings here because your internet already went out. Let's hope over the next hour that you'll stay with us here because, as we know what Mr. Black said, he's certainly got you in his crosshairs, no question.
Yeah, he does. He does. But I'm not afraid of him.
You're not. Why not? Why aren't you afraid of him? Let's talk about him because he's certainly recently made his way to the platform on last week's show. And I mean, what say you about some of the things he had to say, and why are you not afraid of him?
Because I'm Lydia Myerz. I'm the queen of Zababa.
That's true. Okay.
I'm not scared of him or anyone else, including Raina Black.
I knew you were going there because you've obviously have some history there.
Yeah, boo, Raina, boo.
Well, she put that on Instagram. We're not going to go down that road. But, I mean, he's very stern in what he wants to do in the direction of Amplified and Enterprise Pro Wrestling. Mm-hmm. I mean, I had said it to him last week. Does the future of Enterprise Pro Wrestling and Amplified Wrestling, which you were the women's champion of, does it maybe, I don't know, lie in the fate of him and Johnny Walker? Does the future of these two companies, are they at stake? can these companies survive from your vantage point if Eric X Black wins in the main event next weekend and he controls it all? I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
I mean, if he wins, big if,
If
very big
mhm,
if,
mhm.
there
It's a
there
big
will
if.
be changes, but he thinks he can go ahead and, like I was saying, fire all these people, make threats about it, and if he does go through with it, then you think that's really gonna stop any of us? It's
I
not.
would. Well, I mean, you're the champion. It can't. You can't let this happen. You're the champion. I mean, and I mean that's basically you're one of the reasons why Amplified is what it is today, with over 1,000 plus subscribers on YouTube and Facebook 700 near followers, and just the show after show that's sold out. Big crowd coming in here. We're honoring the Hall of Fame, and Johnny Walker himself is going in the Hall of Fame. John Rambo, the legendary John Rambo. So obviously, Mr. Black, he's got his own visions, and his visions are certainly different than what you see these companies are going forward.
Yeah, they are different, but like I
It's
said,
gonna be it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be something that you have faith in Johnny Walker. Now, Johnny certainly, boy, did he talk about a lot when he
mm,
came in here. That was unexpected what he did. He and Mr. Black, I mean, I can't even repeat some of the things that he said there last week. We were certainly concerned about being, thrown off the air. And in fact, considering what those two men did to each other last week, I even brought this out here, a beat button, because we were just so concerned about what those verbal jabs those men were throwing. I mean, are you confident in Mr. Walker that he can keep Enterprise and Amplified Wrestling out of the hands of Mr. Black? You all right with him and confident he can get the job done still?
yeah, I'm confident in him. He can he can get the job done.
And it's a biker chain match, and obviously, that's something that you would hope and think that the Mr. Walker would have the experience and the upper hand in, and obviously going into something like this. I mean, uh, are you talking to Johnny at all? Have you talked to Johnny the last few days and maybe giving him any verbal support, or you're just going into it not talking to anybody, just going there next Saturday and just minding your own business and just seeing what happens?
Just not really so much minding my own business because at the end of the day, it still is my business
Oh,
as
it's
a
definitely going to be business, and to
Amplified
quote
Women's
Megadeth, it's going
Champion.
to be killing. It's going to be somebody killing is my
But
business for, and there it is.
I'm gonna go in there. I'm gonna go in there, keeping a very close eye on the match.
Well, that's
And
going to be the case, and I know Mr. Mike is here, and I'm going to get to him, and I'm going to get to some other people in a minute. But I mean, Eric X Black is a man that's very accomplished. Johnny Walker is a man that's very accomplished. He's traveled up and down this country. I mean, this is as big fight a feel you're going to get here. I mean, just I got to think this is one of the greatest main events. I've said it here. I said it last week and I said it the week prior. And I'm just curious from afar from your thoughts. I don't think I've covered a match in my career that has this much on the line. You're talking about now not one but two world titles. You're also
yeah,
talking about now control of a company in Enterprise Pro Wrestling. I mean, I haven't seen anything, and I've just had on two ex WWE wrestlers, and Rhino and Savio Vega. I just had on James Fury, who was an extra at MLW. I just had on Sam Aljami, who was in a segment with Mustafa Ali and himself was an extra in MLW. And I had on Stud Bronson, who defeated Savio Vega just a few short weeks ago. Those are some heavy figures and heavy hitters in their own rights. And I still, in my career, champ, have never seen as much on the line as it is next weekend.
yeah. Like
Yeah,
you
I mean,
said, a lot
and
on the line, but I have faith in Johnny Walker. He's gonna come out on top.
Johnny's got
Not
one more
not
left in him, you think? Johnny's got one more left in him?
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, we're going to find out, and we're very excited about it here. And it's Rising Devastation from Amplified and Enterprise Pro Wrestling. And that's going to take place next Saturday. And that's also going to be something that we're sponsoring here on Sportswire Radio, because I am donating not one, but two tickets next week to the show. And we will have a couple of announcements related to that and also some more coverage next week on the show. So you'll be very excited to hear some of that. And I was curious also then, Champ, from your vantage point, and just what are your goals here for 2025 for a minute? What are your goals coming up this year?
I just want to broaden my horizons, win some more titles. That's always nice to do.
Nothing wrong with more championship gold. You've been used to that. And you've obviously done a lot in terms of representing women's wrestling and the women's divisions and superstar wrestling, certainly amplified and Enterprise Pro Wrestling, and obviously you've got some other shows coming up here. I wanted to put the poster up, the full poster, because actually you had the poster up. So instead of me going on my old Facebook photos or that I'm locked out of and screenshotting them, we can do it right here. And it's going to take place coming up next Saturday. Tickets are only $15. Think about that. I just went out to eat and spent over $20 here in the Big Apple just for one meal for me. This show's only $15. And on top of that, you're going to get a chance to see the Hall of Fame ceremonies. Again, John Rambo. I mean, he looks like Rambo. Johnny Walker. I mean, a slew of so many greats that are going to be recognized and honored. Sickens going in the Hall of Fame. Congratulations to him. And it's all going to take place here coming up at the McConnellsburg Elementary School, 151 East Cherry Street in McConnellsburg, Pennsylvania, zip code 17233 in beautiful McConnellsburg, Pennsylvania. And the main event is Johnny Walker and Eric X Black. Also, Anton Nathan's on the card, a man that was here on Sportswire Radio last month. You got so many great people here, and it's all going to start here. Match time is at 6, but get there at 4 because the Hall of Fame ceremonies are going to take place at 5 o'clock Eastern time, and I promise you, it's going to be worth it. It's going to be worth the admission. This is a night full of wrestling. This is what it's about here. All wrestling matters, and we appreciate that. Nicholas Crenton wanted to say, was working on my Spanish, and yeah, I need to work on my English still. He's working on his Spanish. He's bilingual, and he's watching this because of that. Thank you for that. We appreciate that. Okay, so obviously you want to win more gold. You've
Yes.
got gold here in Amplified, but I do want to talk about Kid Mike and Van Hansen because you were in this weird predicament because Eric Black has already said that he's firing you no matter what happens. If he wins, not only does he win the Amplified and the Enterprise Pro Wrestling Championships, he keeps the Amplified title. He's also going to get the Enterprise title, but on top of that, he's getting control of Enterprise Pro Wrestling, and that means you're out. So that puts you rather in this peculiar situation of, I guess, rooting for Kid Mike. And I mean, how does that make you feel at knowing that you've got to be on the same side as someone that you've been fighting with for years now? I mean, let's talk about that.
Years on and off. It's like, he's obsessed with me. I mean, I don't blame him. But, just this one time, we're in agreement on something.
That's got to make you feel really awkward because this is someone that's literally tried to, for years now, end
Yeah,
your career. And I mean,
for years, on and off, on and off. One minute we're friends, the next we're not, and he's all in it for himself and very egotistical.
do you think he's still in it for himself? Do you think that it's all about Kid Mike still, or you really believe now that Kid Mike is here for the right reasons? And
I mean,
obviously the allegations of the Eric X Black attack on Kid Mike last month. I
that's
mean, do you
that's they like I said, at one point Kid Mike and I we were on the same side at one point.
Mhm.
If anyone remembers in the early
Yep.
days of Enterprise, the Empire of Zababa, like we were on the same side, and then all of a sudden
Hanson talked about it here many times. I'm going to get to him. I'm going to definitely get to him. I know that.
he was on the same side with Eric Black for a while. They were on the same side. They were all, buddy buddy, and now all of a sudden they're not. So I don't. Maybe Kid Mike is the problem.
Wait, well, so why do you say Kid Mike is the problem from your vantage point?
I don't know.
I mean, Kid Mike seemed he was upset at Van Hansen Well,
Yeah.
because he hadn't heard from him. But Van
Yeah.
Hansen, well, he was put in a casket by Kid Mike.
Well,
So
yeah.
really, I mean, what was he supposed to have done? I don't think
I
they
mean,
get
I wouldn't
Wi-Fi
have
or
talked
phone
to him
service in the casket.
either if I was Hanson. I wouldn't have talked to him either.
So really, Kid Mike has got himself to blame to be in this situation. But that puts you on the same side as Eric Black, because Eric X Black last week was also talking about the fact that he used to look at Kid Mike like a brother. He used to
Mhm.
look at him as somebody that was important in his career. And he talked about the fact, and he still maintains it wasn't him who was behind that heinous attack toward Kid Mike. I mean, that kind of puts you on the same side as the man that wants to fire you and get rid of you in these two companies. Kind of weird, don't you think? This is a bizarre situation, Lydia. Really bizarre.
You can say that again.
I'll probably be saying over the next 45 minutes. I mean,
Lydia doesn't like anybody.
you're like the definition of DTA right now. There's some people that are going, Stone Cold Steve Austin, but you're the definition of that. And that's just, again, you've got disagreements with all these parties involved, whether it's Eric X Black, whether it's...
I'm on my own side. I am on my own side. No.
But for your career in this company, in both companies, you have to have Johnny Walker win. You have to have Johnny Walker win next Saturday, or otherwise, I mean, you're going to have to find other places to go. You know?
At this point, yes, we're gonna have to have Johnny Walker win. But that doesn't mean that I'm friends with Kid Mike again. So that just means we're in agreement on something. That doesn't mean that we're friends.
Now, will you talk to him on next Saturday's show? Will you exchange any pleasantries, or you still will be as far away as possible?
I will do what I normally do.
You just do you. You know, as one wrestler who famously comes on this platform, his name is Anthony Steele. He'll always say, "I do what I do," and you're gonna do what you do. He says it famously.
I do what
Well, you do it a lot more respectfully, and you do it in your way. He does it in, well, his own way. He's a very unique, and he's a unique fellow, very beloved fellow, some would say. But
I do.
Well, you do. Well, you know what? If you're here right now, because I see a lot of people coming in here, and maybe they forgot your last appearance. Well, if you're here, hit the sub button for Lydia, because Lydia's on Instagram. She's got some stuff on YouTube, by the way, that has 10,000 views, 12,000 views for a match, 3,000 views. So definitely check her out, and check out Amplified Wrestling. I'm going to put the Amplified Wrestling YouTube link up here in a minute, but give her a follow on Instagram. She's got some merchandise. We're going to plug that. And my name is the Reverend Tom Bryce. Thank you so much for tuning in here. And if you're here, share, like, and follow us here on Sportswire Radio. All right, so Kid Mike, you've got some issues with. That's never going to change. But the other man who I mentioned is Mr. V to the H, Mr. Van Hansen, who's the other part of this. And, I mean, what do you think about Van Hansen right now in the situation? I mean, he thinks he's okay. Would you want to see him gone? I mean, I guess obviously Eric X Black is not sparing you, but it seems like Van Hansen's worried about his own survival. Do you think that Van Hansen can survive here? And is there a future in these companies still with him at the helm, or you wish really he was the one being fired?
I mean, I would like, him to stick around and everything. That again, there's history with like Hanson as well, but I think Dennis G might have gotten through to him a little bit.
Well, that was the video, that was the whole thing. And I want to get your thoughts on the Kid Mike attack that everyone's been talking about. It was referenced here a couple times. Mike referenced it. Mr. Black himself took liberties to mention it. And Dennis G was nowhere to be found. I mean, what do you think about Dennis G and all this? Somebody else you have plenty of history with. I mean, you have history with all these people and issues with them. Boy, I mean, I don't know. Boy, you really are in more of a difficult spot than I think of all the people I've ever had on here. You're in like the most difficult spot going into a card in a match like ever.
I am. I think it's probably Mm, I think it probably has to do with Baby Cupcake, to be honest.
They're all jealous of you, Mike and Hanson, and they're all
I
they're
don't
all
think it's
jealous.
that. No,
You know,
no.
what do you
It's
think? So, what do you think it still is after all this time, right? Your name was brought up last week, even the week before when Kid Mike was here, and it was almost like that level of like awkwardness. There'll be another name I'm going to mention here very shortly that'll probably get things even more awkward in a minute, but you come up every time on here and there's this level of awkwardness. Hanson and I were here, we were having a civil conversation, everything was hunky dory, and then it was just awkward. I think you popped in the chat for a minute. You popped in when Kid Mike was here a couple weeks ago, and
Mhm.
I don't even think you were here last week, and all of a sudden Eric Black just basically put you on full notice. He put you on blast that you're out the door. You're fired. I mean, boy, you just
I
there's
like to
always a
see him.
level of awkwardness with you.
Yeah, I like to see him try. Like I said,
Well,
history with a lot.
you certainly attract a lot of attention, but I don't know if it's the best or the most wanted attention. But nevertheless, you have to, I guess, go into this and just hope that you keep your job. But did you feel sorry at all for Kid Mike when he was attacked the way he was last month, or not really? No,
No, no. I think he deserved it.
you deserved it. Great to say that about the person
I
that
think it might
could
have
keep your job.
humbled him a little bit, but
It's funny you said that because I noticed, right? Interesting you say that, champ, because I've had Mike on a few times, and Mike, he's always, a very, almost right around, just right in your face, very just right around, rough around the edges, just straight to the point. But Mike seemed different. He seemed different in his last appearance here in Sportswire. So you think with the injury, not being able to
yeah, that
compete in the
that attack
ring,
did something to him.
so maybe that's something that makes you feel good in a sense that maybe Mike has changed his ways a bit or he's come around. Is that maybe something to say or not too far? It's too far. Don't want to go too far there, right?
I think that's too far. I think it changed something in him just a little bit, but I
Mhm.
wouldn't go as far as to say that I trust him again.
But you'll never trust him. You with your history with him, you could never trust him, right? You could never trust
No,
him.
after everything, no, he cannot be trusted.
Well, who could blame you? I mean, this is a history. It's been going back for what 4 or 5 years. It's just a long history that you've had with him and Mr. Hanson. And I mean, what do you think though about Mr. Hanson? Do you think that he'll be back in the ring? Do you ever? I mean, what do you think about that? Should he come back to the ring? I mean, you'll beat him again. I guess from your vantage point, that would make you feel good. Get another win over him. But I mean, like, what do you think about all that?
I mean, I think he can definitely come back if he really wants to. It would be
Or
nice
maybe
to see him
do you
back.
agree with what Kid Mike said about him a few weeks ago and called him a failed YouTube streamer? I mean, that was, very harsh, right? To call him a failed,
Yeah,
YouTube streamer. I mean, they were the Murder City Hit Squad.
he really thought Hanson would talk to him.
He did. He's
Not
what he did. He thought that he would talk to him, and
like
but Hanson's into himself. I mean, now he's been posting videos about the Royal Rumble, and he's been posting videos, about seeing the world in different colored glasses, and
I mean,
maybe
guess as the kids say, let him cook.
Well, that person, and I mentioned Anthony Steele, that's what he does on Sportswire. Oh, he cooks everybody. So really, Van Hansen, maybe he is that failed YouTube streamer after all. Maybe, maybe Kid Mike was onto something because, maybe Van Hansen missed the V to the H should focus on music and maybe he shouldn't come back because you'll cook him too.
I mean, not in the bad way, but like let him cook, let him simmer, let him.
Lydia Myerz is unleashing on Sportswire. She's saying, let Hanson and Mike, let them cook, let them go at it. But, there was something else in it. I'm going to put the amplified YouTube link up in a minute. But, I mean, he talked about Kid Mike, their relationship. And it was basically like they were best of friends. Christmas dinners together, Christmas cards, families got along with each other. And then all of a sudden, after the casket match, it stopped. There was nothing. It just all of a sudden, if it was all in the past, it never existed. I mean, in a way, I mean, maybe they were putting on a facade all those years. Do you think maybe that was all an act, their friendship, or what do
If
you
it
think?
was, then very good act.
Well, maybe I don't know, but I mean, Kid Mike did call Van Hansen a failed YouTube streamer, and maybe, you know, he
Maybe he's
knows.
jealous. Maybe he's
And there was
jealous.
this guy Anton Nathan who was here, and Van Hansen was gushing about him, gushed about Anton Nathan and
Yeah,
everything
they
he's doing.
they got history together too. Good history though.
Well,
Good.
you don't really have any beef with or issues with Anton Nathan. He's focused on Gail Kim right now. He's not
Yeah.
focused on you.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
focused on Gail Kim. I mean, for whatever reason, he wants a match with Gail Kim, which you know.
I mean, if he gets that match, then good for him, and I wish him luck.
Well, you know what? I had Rhino and Savio Vega on since you last came to Sportswire. So at this point, why not? I mean, who knows what could happen there? But I want to mention a name. Before I do that, I want to put up the YouTube link for Amplified Wrestling. I see a lot of people here. I thank you for tuning in. My buddy Ernest Dub on X just shared. Like I have like 70 something people watching us right now. So we're in prime time on the brightest lights, the biggest stage. Definitely check us out here. But I want to put the YouTube link up because I see a lot of people here. People want to talk to you. I'm going to let them have that opportunity. But before I do that, and that's the Amplified YouTube link, please hit a sub for Amplified. We'd appreciate that. Let's get them to 1,100 subs. And I'll put the poster up here coming up for next Saturday show, which I am donating 2 tickets for. So we'll certainly take care of that in a few minutes. But I do want to ask you about a name. I want to make an announcement here on Sportswire Radio about a name that's coming onto this platform. And it's a name you've had some history with, and Raina Black. Raina Black is going to be here March 11th. March 11th in prime time on the brightest lights, the biggest stage. Same time, same bad channel you are. Somebody you've defeated before in the ring. And obviously, I'm sure that she's going to have plenty to say about you and plenty to say on what happens for February 22nd. And hopefully you'll still have a job. And I guess from one vantage point, even if Mr. Black wins, he'll keep you. But Raina Black, who obviously is no fan of yours, and I'm wondering what's your thoughts on Raina Black next Saturday?
Raina, we can't seem to stay away from each other. We just can't. And I love getting in the ring with her. I do.
But she doesn't seem to exchange the same feelings toward you.
Like like you said, lots of history there with her and everything. And we always just gravitate towards each other in the worst yet beautiful way possible.
Well, I mean, I'm sure that she's going to have a few things to say about it. It'll be fascinating to see what she thinks after February 22nd because we're going to see what takes place here. But what's made Raina almost one of your, let's just say, nemesises, to use a phrase of somebody that was here a few days ago? But what has made Raina that nemesis that you've kind of battled alongside Kid Mike and Van Hansen and Eric X Black over these years? What has made her that type of arch rival of yours?
I think just, the fact that we're both very driven towards the same goals.
That's always a good way to look at things. That's always a good
females championship too, where we're both very driven.
Yeah.
To hold these titles.
It means a lot to be a champion, especially of a company that has the history and the pedigree of Amplified, and to be on the Enterprise Amplified shows, and that's obviously that championship. Well, it's not big enough for the two of you because only one can hold it, and that's, I'm sure, gonna make Miss Black upset, and I'm sure she'll have a lot to say about that. And I'm for the audience. I'll put up, because it's a very short match, even though we've played it here before. I'm actually going to play at least some of it for the audience because, well, it'll give at least a plug to Amplify. We'll let the chat here talk in a few minutes. I know you're very busy with stuff, but kind of seeing the history firsthand. And there
Yeah.
is, speaking of Van Hansen, though, what do you think about the Van Hansen haircut these days? Mr. V to the H no longer has hair. Looks like he could have played in a band called V to the H Van Halen. So, what's your thoughts on the Van Hansen haircut?
I mean, to each their own. I prefer the long hair, but to each their own.
Maybe it'll help him be. Well, maybe it'll help him be a better person towards you. I don't know.
Yeah. See,
He's been
see
very
this. See,
quiet lately. He's been very. Maybe he really is. Mhm.
maybe
Well, Reina's a tough opponent.
she is. She is. But I love beating her up as much as she loves beating me up. That is the only type of love we have
I'm
for each
sure.
other.
Oh well, I'm sure she'll definitely return the favor or the receipt, as some would say. But you've obviously always got the odds stacked against you, and yet you find ways to win. And maybe that's what drives Reina crazy. And maybe that's why she wants to, let's just say, black you out more or less, or black out you're here on this platform.
Maybe. Maybe.
Well, we're here on Sportswire Radio. We are here with the Amplified Wrestling Women's Champion, Lydia Myerz. Lydia and the rest of the gang are going to be a part of next Saturday's Amplified Wrestling and Enterprise Pro Wrestling's Rising Devastation show. It's going to take place in the McKees, Penport, Pennsylvania. You're going to definitely want to see more about it. I'm going to put the poster up for it. We're going to get to some of the people here in the chat, and we're also going to have coverage here. Speaking of Mr. Hansen and Mr. Mike, well, I'm told that contractually they're obligated to return to Sportswire Radio one more time next week before February 22nd. They're going to be here one more time in prime time on the brightest lights, the biggest stage, and they're going to talk about the card. They're going to talk about Mr. Eric X Black, who's the Amplified Wrestling Champion. They're going to talk about Johnny Walker, the commissioner, and they're going to talk about that main event. They're going to talk about you, I'm sure. They're going to talk about Reina Black, and not to be confused with a Seven Dust song, Black. Get it, Black, Reina Black, Eric Black's Black. Nobody really spoke of that, but there's a lot of things they're going to talk about. They're going to talk about all of it here and some. We're very excited about that. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice, figuratively and literally here where all wrestling matters. I'll keep the matchup here for another minute. I do want to get to the chat. I want to talk to you about a couple of different things, but in this memory, Mr. Hansen was fair toward you. This was when he was a fair Hansen, not quite a Van Hansen, but a fair Hansen who was less corrupted. He was less corrupted.
He was somewhat fair,
He was
Unlike
fair.
Jay Balla and Eric Black and Kid Mike, all of them being all friends here.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Maybe he's got an ounce left in him. Maybe deep down he's got something in him. So we'll have to find out. I mean, I'm excited to see what those two, especially after, well, Mr. Hansen was here last time and rather, odd exchange they sort of had with the telephone. And then we had the whole thing with Johnny Walker on the video with Kid Mike. And then Johnny Walker interrupted Eric X Black. And that was certainly interesting. But at least the good news is that you're not dealing with the same thing, Lydia. Because, last week on Sportswire Radio, there was a wrestler in your chair on his birthday who got attacked senselessly. He got attacked so bad, nobody heard from him for days on his birthday. So the good news is that you're not having to deal with that same problem. And we're happy to have you back here for the first time in 9 months. We're going to get to the chat in a minute, but Lydia obviously is showing why that she is a strong competitor. And she is showing also why that she's somebody to keep an eye on here. I mean, do you think Johnny Walker is going to be able to keep the numbers game out of Mr. Black's favor? Does that concern you at all? And it does, kind of include your job security right now. You concerned Mr. Walker can keep up with some of the potential advantages or unfair advantages you might want to say from your vantage point Mr. Eric X Black may have coming up next Saturday?
If I can survive the numbers game, then anyone can.
And Johnny's a legend. Johnny's certainly been in there. He's been in there with Bully Ray. He's been in there up and down the East Coast and the South. And he definitely knows his way around the ring. And, those biker chains of his are going to certainly, show why he could most certainly be the one on top and keep control in Mike's favor. But you won the match, but you didn't win the war. That was, what
Yeah,
wound up
yeah.
happening here.
Someone's a sore loser.
Well, it happens. What can I say? It is what it is, really. But also want to give a shout out to some of the Hall of Famers here coming up at the show next week. Brent Seville, congratulations to Brent. Ian Drake-esque, a man who certainly plenty about. He's going in the Hall of Fame. What a career he's had. And although Mr. Black wanted to remind us his championship run was far more longer and superior than his. Hal Litzer, another big name. We got John Rambo, who I've mentioned. Mark Mest. I mean, we got some really, really good names. Sicken's a name, obviously. A lot of people are excited about it. Johnny Walker's going in the Hall of Fame alongside Reina Black. And I was curious what your thoughts were on that in a minute. Johnny Walker, Reina Black in the Hall of Fame together. They're going to be able to separate business from the Hall of Fame ceremonies. I mean, I know you're just a fly on the wall with it. Maybe you won't even be there for the ceremonies, but what's your thoughts on that? Johnny Walker and Reina Black going into the Hall of Fame at the same time? And will they be respectful, be cordial, or what?
Hopefully
That's
they don't
bizarre.
ruin the
But could you imagine a situation like that? I've never seen. I've done a lot here over the years, and you've got two people going into the Hall of Fame, but then in the main event, obviously Reina's husband's Eric X Black. He's involved, and he wants to take it all, which means your job. And then you've got Johnny Walker, who's defending the company, defending the honor of you and all the employees, but yet they're going to have to, I guess, put their differences aside because they're going in to the Amplified Enterprise Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. That's bizarre. Just bizarre.
I wouldn't necessarily say it's bizarre. I'm just hopefully they can.
Well, it's bizarre that they're going to have to go a few hours from now. They hate each other. Are they going to stand side by side together and act like all's fair in love and war and just be friends? I don't know. Not with those two. I don't know.
I don't know. Hopefully security is on top of everything.
We're going to find out. I'm going to put the posters up for that in a few minutes. Let's get to the chat. A lot of people want to talk to you. I want to give them the opportunity. I want to plug you as well. Zilla's in the house. She wants to say hello. Thank you, Zilla. Nicholas Crenson, who we mentioned. Good evening, Reverend. And Mrs. Myerz with a Z, by the way, with a Z. But we'll give him a pass because he's here. And he's the RCW. He's the RCW champion. The legendary Darkron is in the house. What an inspirational story. He was the 2024 Inspirational Wrestler of the Year here for Sportswire Radio. Guy's fought cancer, severe injuries, wants to return to the ring, very close to it, and he's very happy to be here. Just a great man. I wish more people in this world were like him in his spirit. Thank you to Nicholas. My guest Friday, by the way, who's celebrating a birthday Sunday. He's one half of the Roommates champions and our friends over in Home Entertainment Wrestling in beautiful Buffalo, New York. Yes, I think Buffalo, because I'm a fellow New Yorker. It's a beautiful place to go. And he's saying greetings to you both. He'll be here Friday at 9 o'clock. I'm looking forward to seeing Torrance Bank. He's also the newest member of the NEW roster. But let's go here to this man. We're going to get to some of the comments. This lady. Yep, there he is. The answer kid Mike now. But, well... We'll go to that. Thank you. Hello to Torrance. How you doing? Ho, ho, ho. How's everybody doing? Let's get to some more comments. Yep. Hello. Congratulations to Darkron. He reached 1,000 subs on YouTube. And Torrance says hello. But here's what Mike has to say first of all. I want to offer my hand to you, Lydia, about hoping our side of things go our way on February 22nd. What's your thoughts on that?
I mean, our way, if you mean by the fact that, me not getting fired, then yeah. Hopefully.
I mean, he's obviously offering a peace treaty for a day. It's obviously, I'm sure the past is what it is. It's not going to change, but for a day because, obviously, because remember, don't forget, if we know from your vantage point, let's just say from your vantage point, if Johnny Walker wins, you're safe. Kid Mike is safe, but if Eric X Black, he wins control of Enterprise Pro Wrestling, Kid Mike could be out of a job. Kid Mike could be on the unemployment line. And I mean, that obviously would be the same place you would be going, at least in Amplified and Enterprise. So maybe for a day, you guys should want the same thing, and maybe at least have that moment where all is put to the side so you guys can have the same goal of seeing Johnny Walker, for the sake of your career, Mr. Mike, here in these two companies, continue on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just
Well, we'll go forward. We got more comments. I think I basically kind of finished what he wanted to say, which is okay. Thank you, Nicholas, for the comment. I want to say hello to my buddy, Mr. Comatose, who is obviously here, who's also done some podcasts. Maybe you'll go on his show one day. And he was here, well, in spirit yesterday. His good buddy Blade was here. It was a great conversation. And he says, you're the lovely Lydia Myerz, but he's got a girlfriend. So the good news is he does have a girlfriend. So he's just saying that because he's from the underground, and he's a good man. And if you're here, by the way, you can go hit a sub button and also follow on Instagram Lydia's page. I'm going to put the Pro Wrestling Tees page up, but do hit the follow on Instagram, because if you don't, the Queen of Zobaba will put a spell on you, and you'll turn into Van Hansen or maybe Kid Mike. So make sure you do those things. Speaking of people who want to greet you, the hall monitor of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. By the way, I'm wearing his shirt right now. Justin Parsley says, "What a Hall of Fame guest you have tonight." Good evening. Very, very clever words, but he's right. You're a Hall of Fame guest. Hello there. Yes, to Comatose. Everybody's good. Yep. Hello to Zilla. We appreciate that. We appreciate you as well. And also, Zilla says she's Team Raina Black. That's bad for you. That's very bad for you. I mean, Lydia, that's not good. Lydia, that's not good.
No.
That's Team Eric and Raina. That can't be good for you. If she's Team Raina and Eric, that means your career, at least in Amplified and Enterprises, no more. We don't want that, at least from your vantage point.
Yeah.
All right, let's see who else we got. We got a lot of comments here. Let's go with that. Zilla, because Raina was here last week in the chat, she's saying she's a big fan of Raina Black. She loves, likes, respects, and appreciates Raina Black. And she's also a big fan of Eric X Black. So basically, she likes the Blacks. But we'll have to go to the next comment. And she also wants to say further, she really likes, loves, and appreciates him. Okay. Okay. There's a Johnny Walker who's been a well-traveled wrestler, and he is the one that's wrestling in the main event. So that's the person that we're talking about. I want to say hello to my friend out there in Pennsylvania, also Athena, who's very happy about her Philadelphia Eagles winning, and she's returned to the chat here for the first time in a while, and good to see you. And if you're here, by the way, now that I see other people are here, you have to hit the sub button and the follow buttons. First, follow Lydia Myerz. There you go. Bam. To quote Emerald, bam. There you go. Wham, bam. Although my mother liked Emerald. I didn't really care much for Emerald. But there you go. There's the follow buttons. Let's get you a couple of followers. And then what we're going to wind up doing here is, because we love to promote Amplified, because Amplified is always been so supportive of us here on Sportswire Radio, I got to make sure we hit the sub button for Amplified. Bada bing, bada boom. And I'm going to put your page up for Pro Wrestling Tees in a second. But let's talk about something else here before I go back into the show. And you're going to be in action coming up regardless of what happens next Saturday. You're going to be in action coming up here in a few weeks for Superstar Wrestling. And let's talk about it.
Yeah. So March 8th, Superstar Wrestling. We have a new venue. It's sort of a new beginning, so to say, for the company. Reignition. Reigniting the flame.
Yeah, everybody uses reigniting, reigniting. I see RCW's done it, and everybody uses reignite. It's a good word, though. I mean, listen, it's a good word.
It's 2025, and big changes are happening. Good changes.
That excites you going back there and having that excitement? Does that excite you? Does that motivate you, or what?
It does. It does.
What will some of the things we'll be looking for you coming up to do? I know we have May 10th also coming up there, right? May 10th's a big show coming up, and a few shows throughout the year you're going to be a huge part of. So obviously this is a good start to the year. You always want to start strong, and having March 8th come up here right around the corner, February 22nd and March 8th. And I guess when it comes to a show like March 8th, February 22nd, you prepare differently for both, or what?
I prepare the same. With SSW, unfortunately, I lost the Love Drafts Ultra Violent Championship to someone who weaseled their way into my match
Mm.
with Hanson.
Well, why am I
Yeah.
not surprised?
Yep. It was an unfortunate loss. I didn't even get pinned. I was handcuffed to the ropes. I mean, it was an ultra violent match, but still, I didn't even get pinned. So
That's going to
hopefully,
be something you're going to go into with motivation to rectify coming up here on March 8th. You're going to want some answers. You're going to want some payback. You're going to want to reignite your year in Superstar, and you're going to want some redemption for the rest of the Superstar Wrestling roster then.
yes. Either, by the end of the year, the goal is to either get that title back, or perhaps this can open the door for new opportunities. We have other titles there as well, and all the titles at SSW are gender neutral.
Okay. Well, you've
So
listened. You've defeated Van Hansen. You've been in there in the ring with a lot of different members. Was it Victor Jones? I think you were in the ring with in the past, right? Was it Victor Jones or Ian Drake? One of them you were in the ring with. So you've been in the ring with a lot of, you could kick my butt and most of my chat's butt. So I'm sure you're going to win plenty of gold, whatever you want, your heart desires. I have no doubt that you'll get there. So there's no question that you'll always have gold in your sights, and I'm sure that. You're gonna either get what you lost or maybe gain back here in
yeah.
Superstar Pro Wrestling.
But first, unfortunately, I have to deal with Kevin Murphy again, and Ryan Colby and Richie Nightmare. Unfortunately.
Mm. Well, you know what? We're gonna find out. I was always wondering this question, and I asked this. I recently had a couple of pro wrestlers come on my platform. A guy Skrilla, who wrestled Lexus King, Colby Carino, James Storm, who's been in the ring with Carlito. I've had on a guy Vito Fratelli, who made the PW. I know I've asked you this question before, but do you feel like that this would be a year that you could potentially get onto the PWI 250? I'm sure you pay attention to it.
I'm hopeful, yeah. I'm hopeful.
With your resume, your background, the amount of matches you've had. We spoke about it last year, but I feel like, starting the year with some big shows coming up, I mean, I feel like that's going to get you on the path to getting there. Is that something you think about still a lot?
That is, every day I still think about it.
Because when I had Skrilla on here, and we were talking about this a couple weeks ago, and like I said, Skrilla's defeated Colby Carino, James Storm. He's been in there, Lexus King. A rare match you have with somebody, who's a WWE contracted wrestler in an independent show. He did that, obviously. And we were talking about it. I'm like, why haven't you been in the PWI 500? And he said as a wrestler, he thinks about that more than, like who he's been in the ring with, what his earnings are. So I feel like that's the validation for your career. And that's kind of what he said. He said to me, that's the validation. Being in the PWI 500 is the validation that I'm a pro wrestler. I read that book. I read the magazine as a kid. I followed it. And does that validate your career, as you feel your career is validated already?
I do feel like it's validated already. I would say that gives a little bit more recognition.
Right.
My career.
The major magazine. It's the, look, I was
Yeah.
talking about it with him, and we spoke about it when you last came on. I used to, with almost a magnifying glass, used to look at everything in Pro Wrestling Illustrated. That was my Bible growing up. When I grew up as a kid in Brooklyn, and I told this story with Rhino because this came up. Rhino was in the top. He was number 10 in 2001, and he was like, "Wow, you knew that I was number 10 in the PWI 500?" And I explained, that was when I was growing up. That's how I knew about wrestling. That's how I looked up all the wrestlers. And, we didn't have what we have today. So to me, the PWI 500, now that we have the women's, which was so happy that they've done that, they've expanded, because there's so many great women's talents out there. And, we want to give them the same recognition. And there's so many great women that do it better than the guys. And to have that PWI 250, I think that it should almost in a way give you that opportunity and recognition that Skrilla talked about. And like I said, I always looked at the PWI. I read it intensively. I still have all my magazines, and I think that would be a great thing for But I do want to bring something up here before I get to some other thoughts here, because I want to make you chuckle, because I want to go back to the Hall of Fame thing here. When it comes to Enterprise and Amplify, I want to put it up on my screen, because I did mention Raina, and Raina is going to go into the Hall of Fame. And congratulations to Raina on going into the Hall of Fame. And are you going to be cheering her on, or are you going to be rooting for her? How does that make you feel, though, that Raina's going into the Hall of Fame? How does that make you feel?
With all of our differences aside, I do feel like it's something that she deserves to be in there.
Okay.
And
all right.
As with everything that we've been through, I do have respect for her. Believe it or not.
I think that it's funny, as we're here with Lydia Myerz for about 15 or 20 minutes, and she's going to be a part of next Saturday's card between Amplified and Enterprise Pro Wrestling. And we're going to be back on Sportswire Radio next Tuesday night with Kid Mike and Van Hansen, Mr. V to the H. I don't know how those two guys are going to coexist next Tuesday. We'll figure it out. But in the meantime, I don't know how. But we're going to definitely talk about that with them and the rest of the card. But it's funny, because you show, at least with Raina, you show that respect. You show that, hey, look, I'm a competitor, you're a competitor. But Raina, something tells me that Raina ain't going to share the same things when she's here in 4 weeks from now. Something tells me that she's not going to share the same mutual respect that you share for her.
Then boo Raina.
Well, boo she said boo you, and yet, all right. But Johnny, obviously, you're going to definitely be cheering Johnny on, because Johnny, is a legend. What a great list of Hall of Famers. You think about Sicken, John Rambo, obviously Johnny Walker, just a long list of names that are, with the history of the Amplified and Enterprise Pro Wrestling. We're representing the Pennsylvania wrestling circuit, which way I'm really excited about the card here coming up. Is there anything as a wrestling fan that excites you, whether it's about the Hall of Fame or anything, just for some of the audience here to get interested in next Saturday show? Is there anything that you're most excited in, other than your own situation about keeping your job?
I would say the Hall of Fame. I feel like it's a very stacked Hall of Fame.
I think it's more stacked than last year. I think, listen, last year's Hall of Fame was a joke, because I was in the Hall of Fame. So really, you knew that last year's Hall of Fame wasn't very good. But this year's class is like some of the very best names, period, in Pennsylvania wrestling. I had this conversation with somebody off the air, and I said the Pennsylvania wrestling circuit, in this country, it might be the very best of any state. And you got some of the very best names anywhere. I mean, you're talking about, Johnny Walker. You're talking about Raina Black. You're talking about Sicken. You're talking about Ian Drake, Victor Jones. I mean, these are people you know very well. Brent Saville, Hal Litzer, we spoke about here on the show. I mean, just a really, like you said, a really stacked list of Hall of Fame names.
Yeah, it makes me excited for 2026's Hall of Fame, if this one is as stacked as it is.
Well, I mean, you wrestled Stefania Cash last year, who was inducted into the Hall of Fame. That's kind of interesting, right? And last year's Hall of Fame was pretty big, it was pretty big, but, next one's, who knows? Maybe, maybe you'll get in there.
Who knows?
Well, you're in my Hall of Fame first, technically. So, maybe they'll have to. Well, if Mr. Eric X Black is in Power, I don't know if you're getting in the Hall of Fame next year. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if you're going to be in the Hall of Fame, but I guess if Kid Mike's in Power, maybe he'll have it in him to induct you in the Hall of Fame next year.
Maybe.
Well, before we do anything else here, Ed Pizzo, my buddy, is here. He subbed to the Amplified Wrestling page. And let me put something up here before we move on here, because Lydia does have a Pro Wrestling Tees page. And I want to put that up before we get to some final things. And I want to put the poster up. So let's take care of business here first. I want to make sure we always support those who support us. And Lydia's got a Pro Wrestling Tees page. I have a Pro Wrestling Tees account so I could get the discount. But you got some shirts there. You got $19.99 only. What a deal. And don't mess with the Queen of Zababa by getting a shirt. You don't want to turn into Van Hansen and Kid Mike or Raina Black or anybody else that crosses her in the ring. So go out and buy some merchandise. I'm promising you, especially with the holidays, months from now, Easter, Easter's coming up. You got a lot of great things in the works, holiday season for the kids, birthdays. It's the President's Day week. That's what I'm thinking of holiday-wise. So if you want to buy the kids a wrestling shirt, buy him Lydia's shirt, buy him a ticket to Amplified and Enterprise Pro Wrestling's Rising Devastation. Well, if you want, maybe you'll be lucky to win my tickets because I'm donating too. But nevertheless, buy some merchandise from Lydia. I'm telling you, it's going to be worth it. Do it. Just do it. And I want to then take that off, go with this. So anything you want to talk about in particular as I put the poster up? Any more things you want to talk or elaborate on when it comes to next Saturday show? Anything else that the audience should know or what you think you'll be doing or anything else before we move on?
Not that I can think of. I just.
Well, we're going to find out. I'll tell you what. You know what, Lydia, I think, and I know your game plan. You always want to make it short, sweet, simple, to the point, because you don't have to do the talking here. You don't have to be like Eric X Black, who's going to threaten everybody and, executive order here, executive order there, or Kid Mike, point fingers, or Van Hansen, Mr. V to the H, act as if nothing happened, or Johnny Walker coming in here swinging. You don't have to do any of that. You're the Amplified Wrestling Women's Champion. You represent Amplified Wrestling loud and proud. Sure, Eric X Black has got the title and he wants more. He wants control of Enterprise Pro Wrestling. He wants the world title of Enterprise Pro Wrestling. But you don't need to tell everybody and just, be dictatorial and run things like a dictatorship. You just want to go out there and prove it in the ring and just earn the fans' respect and trust. And that's why I'm excited about Rising Devastation here coming up February 22nd, next Saturday. Tickets are only $15. The doors open at 4 o'clock. Hall of Fame ceremonies. We just ran through some of the names at 5 o'clock. Bell time is 6 o'clock. It's at the McConnellsburg Elementary School, 151 East Cherry Street in beautiful McConnellsburg, Pennsylvania. Zip code 17233. The card subject to change. We're going to talk about that card next Tuesday night with Mr. Mike and Mr. Hansen. How is that going to happen? I have no idea. Could there be surprises? Who knows? Stay tuned. That's why you got to tune into Sportswire Radio and support us. And also, if you're here, one more time, go give Lydia a follow on Instagram. She's on Facebook as well, but unfortunately, my Facebook account is locked online. I can use it on my phone, so just hit the sub button for her there and the follow, and you'll be up to date with all the great stuff that she has going up. She'll also be in action here coming up May 10th. And that's going to take place here for Reignited Superstar Wrestling. It's going to feature a lethal lockdown steel cage match, tables, ladders, and chairs, the Rudy Rumble. It's going to take place at the Murakee Autism Center, 1920 Good Hope Road, Enola, Pennsylvania, 17025. Front row VIP, $30. General admission, $20. Doors, 4 o'clock open. Bell time, 5 o'clock. Can't go wrong with that. Flame on. Yeah, I'm agreeing with that. Flame on. Flame on. And check out all Lydia's stuff. Definitely support. There she is with the gold, that Amplified Championship.
Baby
And
Cupcake.
What's that?
It's Baby Cupcake.
And there it is. And that's why you're the champ. And the champ is here, to quote John Cena. And I'm going to pass the baton to you. I'm going to give you some closing thoughts. Anything else you want to plug, share, or say? I pass the baton to you.
I mean, for a moment, we can talk about Baby Cupcake a little bit.
Let's talk about it. Baby Cupcake's obviously something that maybe could, let's just say, fear or maybe weed off any challengers prospectively and amplified, or maybe could keep them at bay, or anybody that wants to, let's just say, mess with you in Superstar. Baby Cupcake is like nothing else, and maybe that's going to be something that'll tip the scales in anyone's favor, like yours, especially coming up very soon.
Yeah, baby Cupcake. I don't even think I can trust Baby Cupcake sometimes.
Well,
And she's on my side. She's apparently on my side, and she'll, I think not everyone, but I think a lot of people they're unsure of Baby Cupcake, which I don't blame them. It's quite scary.
But your situation, that kind of fits your situation right now in Amplified and Enterprise. You're almost unsure with where to go, and I mean, you're almost stuck it by no choice but to kind of hope Johnny Walker wins so Kid Mike stays in power.
But, he got rid of me, Kid Mike. Or not Kid Mike, Eric Black.
He said you were the first name that came out of his mouth what he's getting rid of. I mean, so you're stuck to have Johnny.
Eric Black, but you can't keep me away forever. And you can't get rid of Baby Cupcake. And that's something that Kid Mike knows about, is I'm hard to get rid of.
Well, for now, he's rooting for you. He's rooting for you, and, he's on the same page, and you're rooting for him, and you're rooting for Johnny Walker. So really, you have this one-day truce. I mean, it's a one-day truce next Saturday. It's a one-day truce.
One day. That's all.
Well, weird.
And then it's back to being a thorn in each other's side.
It's a weird situation. I'm going to say it. What I take away from tonight is you are in the weirdest situation here these next 10 days, because you have to root for. Now, Johnny, I know you're good with Johnny. I know you and Johnny have a good relationship. There's no issues with you and Johnny really at the moment. But, I mean, you're almost now, you have no choice but to be on the same side as somebody that's wanted to take you out and end your career for years. And Kid Mike, you have this one-day truce. You have to be on the same side of him, because otherwise Eric X Black is getting rid of you. He said you're fired. You're fired right after the bell. He's not even waiting until February 23rd. He's firing you right after he beats Johnny Walker in the biker chain match. He's got all the power. I mean, this guy's power drunk. People talk about right now whether Trump has got too much power. People talk right now if, let's say, a situation with Russia right now. People talk about China, North Korea. I mean, Eric X Black is on par with some of those leaders. He's on par right now with North Korea, from your vantage point, on par with Russia and China and everyone else out there, because he is on a mission to revamp Amplified and Enterprise Pro Wrestling to the way he wants it, and nobody's safe, only except for a few certain people. If he said it, if you're not on his side, you're out the door. He said it specifically. Choose wisely. He even said to Kid Mike, choose wisely what side you choose. You have time. Do you think there's any chance that Kid Mike maybe changes his mind and says, you know what, maybe I'm going to root for Eric X Black?
I honestly wouldn't be surprised if he did change his mind.
Because he gave him, there was a little crack. If you listened to the show last week, there was a crack in that. Eric X Black did say, Kid Mike, choose wisely, choose your side, and he'll let him keep his job. He'll let him survive. He'll let him have a role in the company, and a company he helped build, and a company that's meant so much. And Kid Mike, his family have been in this sport. He was born into this sport. His daddy obviously was a well-known wrestler, and he knows a lot of people from the world of wrestling. This is what he's lived for, and maybe this is why you can't trust Kid Mike, because Eric X Black did leave that crack of an opening. Just saying. That could be something to keep an eye on, that maybe if Kid Mike wanted to just one more time put the knife into your career, it would maybe serve him for what he wants. I don't know. I'm just thinking, I mean, tonight he was clear. You're on the same side, one-day truce, but who knows? You don't know. Eric X Black still denied it was behind. He still denied that attack he wasn't behind. I'm just saying. I'm just, we're going to find out. And don't you worry. I'm going to ask Mike that next week. I'm going to ask him next Tuesday. I'll ask him and see what he says.
See what he said.
I will. I will certainly do that. Anything else you want to share before we sign off tonight?
No.
Well, you're going to keep the talking at a minimum because February 22nd is coming up. February 22nd. Amplified Enterprise Pro Wrestling's next show. It is Rising Devastation. We have been covering it here for the fine tooth and comb on Sportswire Radio here for weeks. We've had V to the H Van Hansen. We've had Kid Mike. We've had Eric Black. We had Johnny Walker. And now we have Lydia Myerz, who I'm sure is going to be there in attendance, is going to doing something big. And you see Raina Black. Raina Black, it was announced it's going to be here March 11th in your chair for sure, champ. And we're going to see it in the main event. Johnny Walker versus Eric X Black. It is for control of Enterprise Pro Wrestling. The Enterprise Pro Wrestling World Heavyweight Championship is also on the line. And Eric X Black is also the Amplified Wrestling Champion. He has held that championship for over a year. That's going to be exciting to see what happens there. Tickets are only $15. It's McConnellsburg Elementary School, 151 East Cherry Street, McConnellsburg, PA, 17233. I am donating 2 tickets to that. We'll be doing that next week. But in the meantime, that's the poster. Check it out. Lydia Myerz, Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, our first women's wrestler to be in the Hall of Fame. And let's say hello to a few people. Dominic, the Razor Instinct, the YBW champion in Pennsylvania, is in the house. And if you are here, guys, I got to put the link up here because you got to go give Lydia a follow because Lydia has been literally killing it in the ring. Just ask Van Hansen. Just ask Kid Mike. And speaking of people who kill people inside and outside the ring, Mr. KTLA, Mr. KTA himself, Mr. Jake Dvorak, who's going to be here in 2 weeks. He's here on the 27th of February, and he'll be interested that my guest tomorrow night is a guy he shared a locker room with, Angel Santiago. He's the TF Crew YouTube champion. You've seen him in GTS Pro Wrestling. You've seen him recently wrestle this guy, Rad Dad Radley Belmont. If you know anything about the GBYWN, that's certainly a name with the stepdads. And Mr. Santiago is here in your chair, 9 o'clock Eastern time. Very excited about that. Mr. Dvorak was here last week, and Mr. Dvorak will be, I'm sure, tuning into closely to what Mr. Torrance Banks has to say Friday night and Tyson Spade Saturday night. But if you are here, do me a favor, go follow Lydia's page. You can see a bunch of things Lydia's done. Baby Cupcake. You can see it with the Amplified Wrestling Championship when she was the Superstar Champion. See some posters, places she'll be in the ring with. You want to book her. You can do all of that here and some. So check her out. Please go out and support her. It's about all wrestling matters, and we appreciate Lydia as always. Champ, thank you so much for all you do for our sport. Congratulations, and we look forward to seeing you soon. And I'll be definitely talking about you next week. And Raina Black, March 11th. Oh, you're going to definitely be a topic. I'm just sure of that. You'll definitely be a major topic.
Oh, yeah.
There's not much more to say other than hit the sub button for Amplified Wrestling. I would highly encourage you to do that. I will be here again at 9 o'clock Eastern time tomorrow with Angel Santiago. Angel Santiago. He is the TF Crew YouTube champion. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice figuratively and literally where all wrestling matters. If you're on Sportswire Radio, please support Amplified Wrestling, as I stated. Also, give a follow to Lydia on Instagram. Also, please support us on Sportswire Radio, on Facebook at Sportswire Radio, TikTok at Sportswire Radio. We're also on YouTube here at Sportswire Radio 6579. Hit the sub button for us. I'd appreciate it. Also, the Promo Wrestling Federation YouTube page. And we thank everybody for tuning in. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are on the number one global radio station that is Sportswire Radio, where all wrestling matters. There it is. There's that championship, the richest prize in all of wrestling, the Amplified Women's Wrestling Championship. And it is held by the Queen of Zobaba, Lydia Myerz, the first women's wrestler to be inducted into the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. There it is. Have a look at it one more time. The champ will be in action, I'm sure, real soon, especially March 8th for Superstar. And stay tuned. Coming up on February 22nd, Rising Devastation, Amplified Enterprise Pro Wrestling's next show. We'll be talking about it next week. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a